Welcome back to Let's Make a Game. In this video, I'm going to talk about the if command. We've already seen how we can make the story branch based on player choices. So we have here the example game that we've been looking at in the last few videos, and we have three choices: step on the crack, walk around the crack, or go home and think about what to do. Clicking on any of those will lead the story to a different place. But sometimes we will want branching that isn't the result of player choice. So for example, we might have a situation where the character may have managed to pick up a particular item along the way, and then later in the story, different things will happen depending on if they have that item or not. I've programmed a short example of that, which I'm going to show you, and then I will show you the code. So we have these three choices: step on the crack, walk around the crack, go home and think about what to do. Let's say that we do that. You go home, there is a parachute lying on your couch, and on impulse you put it on, then you leave, returning to the crack in the pavement. If we now choose to step on the crack, it says the crack is actually a deep fissure. You deploy your parachute and float harmlessly to the bottom. You climb out and continue on your way, and when we click continue, we have 10 hit points. So let's look at doing something slightly different. Let's step on the crack straight away. In this case, it says the crack is actually a deep fissure. You fall in and injure yourself, and then when we click continue, you currently have 8 hit points. So we've lost 2 hit points due to the injury of falling in the crack. So let's have a look at the code that allows that to happen. So you can see that we have this new passage to do with going home. So let's look at that first of all. It says you go home, there is a parachute lying on your couch, and on impulse you put it on, etc., etc. We have this variable, and we use the set command, which we talked about in the previous video. We set $CHUTE equal to 1. And then we have these two choices, which lead to through and around, the same place that we would have gone if we'd chosen them first off. So let's say we go through the crack. The crack is actually a deep fissure, and here we have an if command. You can see that it has the same less than, and then the same greater than at the end of it as set does. It says if $shoot equals 1. That equals, those two equal signs in a row, means is equal to. So it's saying if this variable shoot has the value 1, then we're going to do a certain thing, and if not, we're going to do a different thing. You have to be very careful not to do that, if shoot equals 1. That will not work the way that you think it will. You have to have equals. When you're setting a variable to a particular value using the set command, you use a single equals. When you're using an if, you use 2 equal signs, one after the other. So let's have a look. If shoot is equal to 1, then we get this text: you deploy your parachute and float harmlessly to the bottom. You climb out and continue on your way. Then we have less than, else, greater than. What that means is if this particular thing wasn't executed, then do whatever's in this bit. It says you fall in and injure yourself, and we also have a set command. We set HP equals HP minus 2. And then we have less than slash if greater than. That closes off the if. It tells the computer that whatever's following doesn't depend on the results of this, whether shoot is equal to 1. It just should happen automatically. And in this case, it's 2 line breaks and this link to continue. That should always happen. It doesn't depend on whether shoot is equal to 1. Now, we don't have to have an else. We could have just had this. That would have given us this text if shoot was equal to 1, and if shoot was not equal to 1, it wouldn't have done anything. It would have just printed this text. It would have said, is shoot equal to 1? No, it's not. Well, I can ignore everything up to this slash if, and then it would have just had break, continue next, which wouldn't have made a lot of sense, but it's a valid structure. You don't have to have an else. The other thing you might notice, I indented the text. You can see there's a sort of gap here. This isn't required, but it's a way of making it easier to follow the structures that we're using, and it'll become more useful as we have more complicated structures. You indent things, and then if we were to put another if in here, we'd indent the stuff twice. As you'll see, that makes it a lot easier to follow. The other thing you might notice is that it printed this and this on the same line. Because we didn't have that less than BR greater than, it just continues on the same line. It does put a space in between each thing that it prints, but it doesn't make a new line. Okay, so that is how the if command works. In future videos, we'll look at more complicated ways to use if, but that's how a basic use of it would go. So I will leave it there for now. I hope that was useful or interesting to at least some of you, and I hope you will tune in next time.